Welcome home. We are WNST, AM 1570, Towson, Baltimore, and we never stop talking Baltimore positive. We're going to be getting the Maryland Crab Cake Tour back out for a cup of soup or bowl. It's not going to stop us from doing Radio Row activity around here, as well as celebrating one of the great weeks of my young life, Super Bowl 35, our 25th anniversary. I'm going to get Trent Dilfer, find him, rally the troops. I might find Marvin and Brian as well to talk about the Bullies. We're going to be doing a cup of Super Bowl with the Maryland Lottery. I'll have candy cane scratch-offs to give away. Also, our friends at GBMC keeping me alive and well. One of the parts of no longer doing a Radio Row and Super Bowls is having cool guests come on who are going to be at the real Super Bowl out in San Francisco, live via satellite through a bunch of friends. I'm going to welcome in an author, but really this is about the numbers in the game. And I go back a long, long way doing Super Bowls. I go back so far when I remember when gambling was illegal and it wasn't on television every week like it is for these kids today. This guy's written a book. Art Manteris is it's all about gambling. The book is called The Bookie: How I Bet It All on Sports Gambling and Watch an Industry Explode. It is out this month. A 40-year career in Vegas. He's been with all the big guys, all the heavies, and now he's writing a book on it. All right, a pleasure, man. Welcome in. Happy Super Bowl to you. And you lived long enough to see all of this come clean, come on the level, right? It is amazing for all these years you could go to Wimbledon and bet backstage and do all that we never thought it would come here. You're wearing a Vegas Golden Knights thing there. We never thought there'd be a team in Vegas, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that was such a long shot early in my career. But the world has changed, and Las Vegas is a different place, and the sports gambling environment across the U.S. is a far different place than the industry I worked in for 45 years.
Tell me about the industry you worked in for 45 years. What was the old days like, Uncle Art?
Well, the old days when I started in the industry, everything was manuals. Bets were handwritten on three-part copy paper machines, where a lockbox audit copy was kept. One copy went to the guest, and one copy went to the cashier. If you were lucky enough to bring back.
What casino is this? What took you out to? You're not a Vegas native, right?
No, I'm a Pittsburgh guy, and all this talk about Baltimore and the Ravens is upsetting me a little bit. But I'm trying to hold.
Listen, I've been to Pittsburgh. I was in Pittsburgh last week. It was 21 degrees. You escaped, and that's what I say to all yins in that. And so you did pretty good going out to Vegas, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. But I still go back to Pittsburgh frequently, at least once a year. Having plenty of friends and still some family.
Well, put some coleslaw and French fries on a sandwich on a strip. You'll feel like you're in the other strip.
That's right. Good point. You know your way around Pittsburgh, obviously. But in any case, back to your question. Yeah, the industry that I started in was far different. It was far less regulated, far less controlled than it is today. And we do tell stories in the book about some of the mobsters that were still pretty close to the action back then and did have influence in town. That's far different today. They have no influence and haven't for many, many years.
When did you arrive in Vegas?
Late 1978.
Jimmy the Greeks talking about the intangibles, Brent.
Yeah.
So at that time, you go out there, there's some, Elvis had just died. Sinatra's still playing, right? Engelbert's doing his thing.
Right.
Wayne Newton's doing his thing. Strips just coming to life. Fights are coming online, but there's no HBO yet, right? So at that point, Bowie Kuhn hated you, right? And at that point, Pete Rozelle was trying to shut this down. They didn't think gambling was good for their game, I don't think, because it poisoned Joe Jackson in baseball, right? It poisoned a whole bunch of people in the late 50s with gambling, right?
Pete Rose.
Oh, sure. Well, Pete Rose wasn't even in the soup yet. Pete Rose was still playing second base or third or in left field, right field. He played them all for the Reds in '78, right? So
Nestor, you touched a lot of nerves in some of the subjects that you just mentioned. But yeah, I learned a lesson the hard way in sports gambling because I was involved in boxing promotions very heavily for a number of years at Caesar's Palace and then at the Las Vegas Hilton. And we hosted many of the world's biggest fights in the years that I was involved in boxing. And I was the guy reaching out, trying to sign a lot of those fights and on the speaking tour with the publicity tour for those big fights.
Ratner's been on my show dozens of times. So
great guy.
Yeah.
He was a great Nevada athletic commissioner in his time, and he's a real credit to the industry and a credit to the UFC today. But nevertheless, I after I got out of the boxing business and when I moved to Red Rock Resort Station Casinos in 2001, now I was because because they owned the UFC, the parent company or the principals of Stations owned the UFC, so we were not allowed to book those fights. So now I was separated from all fighting and just concentrated on sportsbook operations. And I was booking a fight, and it was a big fight, and which you'll recognize, of course, and it was the Manny Pacquiao Floyd Mayweather Jr. fight. And I had actually signed Mayweather to his first title fight several years earlier. So I was and hosted and been to a number of Pacquiao fights, so I was very familiar with both fighters. And I thought Pacquiao had a chance against Mayweather. I actually favored him a little bit, but the week of the fight, I learned some very relevant information, very inside information about Pacquiao's shoulder injury leading up to that fight. And it hit me like a ton of bricks that what would I have done if I was still promoting fights? What would I have done with that knowledge? Would I have sabotaged the whole fight, canceled the fight because of what I knew? Or do I keep my mouth shut and just keep booking the fight like nothing's wrong? And that was eye-opening to me. That was in 2015, I believe. And from that moment on, my message changed that there had to be a very clear, distinct separation between gambling on sports and participation in sports. You can't do both. And that message resonated. And that message was the same message that the leagues were supporting. And I worked for the NBA for 10 years as a security consultant while doing my job here in Las Vegas also. So I was pretty connected to all parties all the way around. But that message of separation between participation and gambling was what the leagues promoted themselves. And if you look back at some of the statements of the commissioners over the years, they were so anti-gambling, and I was the bad guy. Well, guess what? Today, my position hasn't changed. My position is still the same. The league's positions have changed. They're now pro-gambling, and I'm the one that's saying, hey, hold on, wait a minute. They shouldn't be so closely intermingled.
Let's talk about your book for a minute, because I got a million things. Gosh, I mean, such a great guest. Art Manteris is here. He's out in Vegas. We're talking about gambling. I don't do a lot of gambling segments here. I mean, I do lottery segments. We talk about things, and I talk about gambling awareness, 1-800-GAMBLER, and but I was not my dad wasn't a gambler. I went to the track when I was a young guy working at the paper and bet some ponies here and again, but I'm $2 better. Never had a betting Jones, never lost lost some money in a Vegas and the craps table here and again when I would go out to have a good time with it, but I don't have an issue with it. But I employed a guy here 30 years ago that in the day would fly to Vegas every week to make his bets. He would go out on fly out on Friday, leave his wife. He was a professional gambler. He would stay at a sugar shack out there behind the Rio, and walk the strip and say, Manteris is going to give me an extra half a point on the Cowboys this week. I'm going to bet there. And he would bet houses based on trying to get an extra point or two or this or that. And this is in 1995, 6, 7, 8, 9, in that range. To think that every bar I walk into, not just here in Toronto too, I was in Toronto for opening day, and it's a bigger thing in Canada because it's been a little bit more socially acceptable than maybe where it's still like new here. And all of the guardrails and all the things that I talk about that can be problems here, let alone for people just gambling money they don't have, regular humans having their lives wrecked. But then the inside part of this, where about a dozen years ago, I wrote a book when the Ravens won the second Super Bowl with Flacco, and we brought him down to then the new casino with Prime Rib, and we did an event inside the steakhouse. He had to walk into the Prime Rib and he couldn't walk near the casino because he's in the league. Now everybody's in on this, and I'm blown away as to how fast it's happened. Yeah. Like marijuana or like different things that, have happened in our lifetime that you couldn't do 5 years ago. The gambling part and the guardrails opens up for a book like yours to say, let me tell you some stories, right?
Yeah, it really does. And the time is right to tell these stories. And it's so widespread now. It's so, you're so inundated. You can't watch a game without being inundated with gambling ads or in-play odds updates. You can't go to a stadium for the most part without sports gambling company logos all over the place. And in some sports, even here in Las Vegas, you see casinos, sportsbook sites on the player jerseys. So yeah, I think it's been too much too fast. It has surprised me very much how fast things have moved and how the leagues have shifted positions so dramatically. You mentioned the UK and sports gambling a little bit earlier, and how socially acceptable sports gambling was for many years, and it certainly was. And I love the UK. And I used to go on vacations all the time to the UK just to hang out in the bet shops and enjoy that environment. In fact, I went to a game, an Arsenal Manchester United game one time, just to see what was happening with in-play sports books, or excuse me, in-play wagering during the game, and sports books right in the stadium, which was so outrageous at that time.
So you're betting on a player to score 30 minutes into the you're betting on that player to score in the next 10 minutes. There's all sorts of interesting ways to do that.
Yeah, there is.
I don't know enough about it, Art. I'm not a gambler. Again, I'm just not.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, there are a lot of propositions like that today, and I'll get back to the propositions in a second. But now in the UK, there's tremendous pushback against gambling. They're curtailing advertising, they're imposing new taxes and other regulatory restrictions, and the same in Ireland. And go through Europe, the Netherlands, Germany. I can't remember off the top
I think
of
that
my
cricket in India has always generated more money than anything.
Cricket in India, fantasy sports was legal in India up until about a year ago, and now they pushed back there as well. So many places around the world, there's great pushback now to the rapid expansion of sports gambling. The US is an exception right now.
Art Manteris is here. He's written a book. We're talking about the book, and it's football. I got so much I want to talk. You said fantasy. When I started my AM radio station journey to move to WNST.net, I got into the internet side of what we could put on our website that we could monetize, and fantasy sports became the click and this and that. I don't know that I didn't realize it was the starter drug. It was the gateway drug for what would become modern gambling. Did you know that all along back in the aughts when this thing was coming online? Because I own a radio station. I had the Bet US people calling me from Costa Rica and the FCC wanting to shut us down for playing ads and like all of the offshore stuff that was going on. But fantasy kind of came in as, oh, it's just rotisserie. You win a few dollars, Yeah. And then we saw the fixing of that going on over millions of dollars, and no, it's Shoeless Joe at that point who trusted at that point, right?
Yeah, well, the fantasy proposition wagering and parlays and contests that permeate the airwaves and are available widespread across most of the country are sports gambling, in my opinion. It's not close. I think I know sports gambling when I see it, and most fantasy daily cash games are sports gambling. There's risk, there's reward, and all the elements of gambling are contained in fantasy sports. In 2006, Nestor, the Unlawful Internet Gambling Enforcement Act was passed by Congress, and that inadvertently provided a carve out specifically for fantasy sports. And lo and behold, entrepreneurs jumped in and created the daily fantasy concept right after that. There was no daily fantasy before UIGA. There was season-long contests, but after UIGA passed, then all of a sudden the daily fantasy industry popped up out of nowhere. So that created a huge loophole, and today that has spread over most of the country. Unless states illegalize it, it's legal. It's not legal here in Nevada. It's considered a gambling game, which it should be. But in some states today, kids under 21 can play fantasy cash games, and yeah, certainly it's gambling in my eyes. And but one more point on that, Nestor, with fantasy football, I actually was one of the guy that started the big time proposition wagering in Nevada when in 1985 put up a proposition on the Super Bowl between the New England Patriots and the Chicago Bears. Would William the Refrigerator Perry score a touchdown in that game? And it got so much notoriety, so much attention. We got killed financially on the prop, but The chairman of Caesar's World called me the next day to thank me for the publicity and
He scored
marketing.
too, right? And Peyton
Oh yeah,
didn't score, right?
that's
Famously, right?
exactly right. It's exactly right. He scored in the first half, and Walter Payton never did.
Well, they're looking at the fridge. It's kind of a
Yeah.
shame that the Bears didn't get in. Art Manteris is here. It is Super Bowl time again. He has written a book. I want to give everybody, this sounds like just a fascinating book. The Bookie, it's a HarperCollins book, How I Bet It All on Sports Gambling and Watched an Industry Explode. It is out now. He is a Pittsburgher, and I'm not going to hold that against him any more than I hold like that against Mike Tomlin now that he's gone as well. 78, you get out to Vegas. Bradshaw, Franco are winning one for the thumb. All of that's going on. And baseball still ran the country before the first strike. So, Art, my last name's Aparicio. So I come at it kind of honest here in Baltimore. My dad came here with my cousin in the 60s, and I'm the product that's born in 68. I'm a baseball family. I'm a baseball name. I came on the radio here in 1991. We did not have a football team. We lost the Colts, trying to get the team back. We were never going to get the team back because the Redskins were going to block us, all of that stuff, right? And here we are, 2 championships in, looking for a head coach, all of that. But the baseball part of this is I came on the air here in December of 91. 92, Camden Yards was built. So I'm on the air in a baseball-only town in 92, 93, 94, 95. Baseball strike, all of that. We're never getting a team here. We're still a football city in the early 90s. My Friday shows were the Friday Football Frenzy. We talked about point spreads with Vito Stellino. We had spreads because Jimmy the Greek had them back in the day. But there wasn't anywhere you could wager other than a bookie. We had a bookmaker salad here named after a guy like you. Delicious if you ever get to Baltimore to get one. But the action part of baseball, I took baseball phone calls here for 35 years. I'm 35 years into this. I have never took a phone call. Hey, Nestor, what do you think about tonight's game? You got Messina -7.5 against the, like, I never knew anyone that gambled on baseball in my life. Like literally all the years I did radio here, football, sure. My dad brought pulled from the plant. My dad worked at the steel mill. He would bring home Circle 5 for 15 mythical points and like pool card, you break it in half, the whole deal. Even had the little, you could cut it in half if you would rip it.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
Right. Okay, so that's gambling in Dundalk, Maryland, East Side, blue collar. My dad worked at the mill. Never met I knew people that bet on the ponies, people that liked the numbers. Miss Edie with better numbers and what not, with the lottery. I never met anybody that bet on baseball. And we're 4 years in this, but Big Poppy's got the hose out now. And tell me baseball gambling as you knew it in 1978 when you showed up out there and what percentage it made up, because I never thought anybody would gamble on it. I'm just wrong. I'm really wrong.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you are. You're wrong on this one.
Again.
Baseball never had the betting appeal that football and basketball did because it's a little bit more complicated to bet. The way we book baseball here for many, many years is odds were predicated on the listed pitchers, the scheduled starting pitchers. And if that changed, then bets were off for the most part and readjusted with the new price, new odds with the new pitchers. That's gradually going away here in Nevada and in certain other parts of the country and internationally.
So starting pitching, but that's my baseball zinger for you there.
So. Yeah, because nowadays scheduled pitchers might only go a few innings anyway, so it's really not that as relevant as it used to be in your dad's day, where pitchers intended you tried to get a guy to throw a full game every time out practically. But baseball odds are a little bit more complicated to understand for the general public, and football and basketball are simple. If a team, if Indiana's an 8-point favorite tonight over Miami, most people can relate to that. And you have to bet 11 to win 10 on either side, and you make your bet and off you go. Baseball, the minus $1.55, we're putting up $15.50 to win $10 is a little bit more complicated for most people, and figuring out parlay payouts is a lot more complicated for most people. When in football and basketball, it might be 6 to 1 for a 3-team parlay, or 10 or 11 to 1 for a 4-team parlay, and so forth.
But I think baseball wants to cash in on this and figure out how they can make money, and that is one of the huge parts of their revenue model that's missing, right?
Oh yeah. The baseball's gotten into the gambling world now too, and I had written an op-ed piece a few days ago where I'm not pleased with the course that most of the pro leagues in America are taking now, where they're so accepting and these official partnerships and sponsorships and so forth. That's a very mixed message that they're sending. They're telling their players how evil gambling is and stay away from gambling and so forth, and yet they're partnering with gambling companies left and right.
Well, every place I go, being a sports guy who's done this all my life, I talk sports with people. I'm blown away. As many people think Trump's telling the truth as think that the NFL is fixed. Like people, I mean, people speak of it in a way that like they believe in, I don't know, horoscopes or something, but they believe the league is absolutely fixed. And Art, this is where it might be the last question. I really do want to let you just go on about your book, because you have so much wisdom on this, and I love this subject, and I rarely talk about it, but I talk about this with friends, and I've talked about this with John Martin, executive director of the Maryland Lottery, comes on here every week or tries to talk about being on the up and up, because he's running the sports gambling part of the state that didn't exist 4 years ago here. Like literally, he was involved in getting it installed and really wants to let people know it's on the up and up. And we don't want you betting with Art on the corner from Pittsburgh with Louis the bookmaker. We want you betting because the money's coming into the state. It's helping education, all of these good reasons. But here's where I sit on it. Art, if you and I created a game, we're going to call it Pig's Knuckles, and we're going to play it, and it's going to get so popular that billions of people are going to see it, and we're going to have judges adjudicate it and referees that decide who wins a bet or not. Every other thing in Vegas, every other thing with the lottery is about being on the up and up. And when you go in the casino, the dice can go in any way, that the machines are loaded in the way that they're loaded, that they're fair, and that it's not rigged, and it's on the up and up. We're betting billions of dollars on a decision that the referee's making as to whether the ball was tucked when a guy hit that these are humans deciding who's winning bets. Problematic as I see it fundamentally in chapter 1, verse 1.
You raised very good points, Nestor, no doubt. But I can tell you my own opinion, and having been so involved for so long, that absolutely, positively, the majority of games in America are legitimate. I firmly believe that. I love the product on the field. I love what the leagues do. I love the product that the NCAA delivers to us all the time. And the games, for the most part, are very legitimate. I commissioned a study over a 10-year period. Now this is a while ago now, so things have changed obviously. But I hired a firm to come in and analyze games for 10 years from in the 1990s, the entire 1990s, and to try to gauge how much corruption or improper influence was exerted in those games over a 10-year period of all games that we booked in Nevada sports books. And they came back with a conclusion that less than 0.01 games were tainted by scandal. The games in America are very, very legitimate. Now, these scandals recently are absolutely cause for concern. No question about it. There's a lot of things that have surprised me with these prop bets and pro athletes in the last 2 years. But nevertheless, in fact, I had somebody contact me the other day about the Broncos-Bills game, and it was fixed. The refs wanted them to win, and blah. I hear that and see that all the time. That's not the case. I don't believe that at all.
I don't think it's good for business to even have the perception of that, though, right? And
Absolutely.
The more of these guys that get caught in various ways, shaving a couple of points, kids in college, it's just it's eye-opening to me when you consider that Tom Brady's cheating by pulling air out of football systemically, and the baseball guys with trash cans are cheating and using watches. Like, what else is going on here besides Gaylord Perry putting a little, Vaseline on a curveball, right?
You're 100%. I couldn't agree with you more. Yeah, those scandals in baseball that you just talked about, and football. What
about Ohtani? Just Ohtani in a general sense. Everything about that stunk.
Yeah. Well, he's a phenomenal athlete, and I'm glad that he's still allowed to play, because a couple of years ago that was very questionable. But yeah, that's pretty hard to believe. The whole story was unbelievable.
So your book's out right now. It is the Bookie: How I Bet it all on sports gambling and watching industry explode. Art Manteris is our guest. He's out in Vegas via Pittsburgh. Last thing, where's this going? Are there going to be guardrails in any way, or is this going to be Wild Wild West and scandal will pop up and Goodell will hit it like a whack-a-mole and they'll just make it all go away?
I think that there is a day of reckoning. I think there is going to be some pushback publicly. I think that sooner or later there are going to be some guardrails put up, and rightfully so. I love the sports gambling industry. It's been my life's work, obviously, and I love the leagues and the sports themselves. But there has to be common sense, and right now there's not common sense guiding with the future of this industry and the way things are going.
Well, if I make you God or the commissioner of all things sports gambling, what are you changing?
If I could make have my way on everything, I would make the leagues get out of the gambling business. No partnerships with the gambling companies, no sponsorships, no in stadium advertising, no in broadcast odds updates and so forth. I love them both, but they should be divorced and live separate lives.
It's not only inappropriate, right? It's kind of unscrupulous to some degree. That's what I mean about controlling the officials and controlling the outcome. No matter what, they do control the outcome.
Well, they do. That's true. But my major concern is the youth of America, in all honesty. And I hate to sound like preaching or I'm on my high horse here now after all these years as a bookmaker. But kids today all over the country are so inundated with gambling advertising and social media promotion of gambling that it's just too much, and it's shocking to me.
Somebody said their kid asked them, their 6-year-old kid was asking him, let's bet on the game, Daddy. Like literally, right? I mean, so there you have it. All right, tell everybody about your book and why here, why now? You got something to say, huh?
Well, yeah, I do have something to say, and I think that there's an important message now. And I have been thinking about writing a book for a long time. So this was a long time in coming. And finally, I did meet the right publisher at HarperCollins and the right ghostwriter, Matt Birkbeck, that worked with me. And they both did a tremendous job in putting together a really good book. And I hope most people find it entertaining. There will be things in there that are controversial. Some people won't agree with, I'm sure, but I hope you're entertained anyway.
All right, next time I come to Vegas, I'm going to hit you, find out where to get a good meal. I had a great night in your building down there. Barry Trotz is one of my dearest friends in the world, and I should say although I'm not necessarily a Caps fan, I'm a Barry Trotz fan. We won the Stanley Cup that night and went to the Mandarin Orient and literally held the cup over my head over the strip at the expense of the Knights, who are all built by Capitals people anyway. So, and you got your own thing out there. It is amazing when I come to Vegas to see the Raiders there now and the Knights there now. It used to just be like, the Shark Tank around the corner, and it would never happen there. So I guess for those of you that have settled out there, at least you got some sports to enjoy, and it seems like it's catching on out there. Especially
still the most exciting city in the world. No doubt. You mentioned the Sphere earlier. What a new great asset for the city. Phenomenal facility.
Hey, you know what? Word came today, and you can Google this. They're building a Sphere here down at the MGM at National Harbor. They're building it right here in Maryland, where I see concerts 45 minutes away. I took my wife out there, and it blew her mind. And Vegas always blows my mind. That's why I'm coming back out in May with our friends at the Maryland party. And it's really been a pleasure to have you on. My thanks to Rick Adiaso, Chris Visser, and the whole crew. My Radio Row goons from the last 3 decades, booking us great guests. Art, a pleasure. Maybe next time it'll be a fist bump in Vegas. Thanks for coming on, man.
Very good. Thanks. Thank you. Nice to talk to you.
Great to have you on. Art Manteris joining us here, the Bookie, How I Bet It All on Sports Gambling and Watching Industry Explode. You can find it out with HarperCollins. And I know y'all are gambling out there because I follow all of you. I'm back for more. We're Baltimore Positive. Stay with us.